Buenas a todos, bienvenidos una vez más aquí de vuelta al canal. Como ya podéis ver, en plena Navidad volvemos hoy con algo un poquito diferente, ya que a principios de esta semana contactó conmigo John del canal de Blood Angels Commander para preguntarme si me interesaría charlar un rato en directo y bueno, comentar como comentamos un poco cómo fue el mundial, los resultados y tal y cual. Comentamos mi lista, hablamos también cosas muy interesantes sobre Ángeles Sangrientos, el meta, cómo lo vemos, los nuevos cambios y todo eso. Así que bueno, he decidido traerosla aquí titulada para que sea más fácil consumirla. Así que nada, espero que os guste.
So I'm joined by Borja, and thank you so much for being here, my friend. Best in faction for Blood Angels at the World Championship. That must feel pretty good, does it?
Oh yeah, of course. It's a great honor.
Yeah. So I think I made a mistake because I had a video on the channel a few weeks ago talking about World Championships, but I didn't quite have the positionings correct. So you came 11th and you played 9 games, and that was in 2 days, or was that 3 days?
Actually, it was 4 days.
Okay.
There's only 2 games a day at the WCW, and well, the extra shadow round on the second day.
And I think so I hadn't seen all your scores until just this week when you sent me. The 2 losses were very, very close.
Yeah, they were. In fact, well, we can maybe do a fast recap to not drag it down too much. But yeah, the shadow round loss was actually at the very last play of the game, where he stopped my secret mission, and that way he outscored me by just a couple points. Yeah.
Wow. And I felt like you had a good variety of opponents here. And the 2 that tricked you up were Chaos Space Marines, which we know are very strong, and Custodes, which can be just a nightmare to get rid of. And was there anything you learned in those games, or was there anything you felt you did wrong? Or
to be fair, obviously there's some mistakes I made, but the ones that I had more clear in my mind was the one against CSM, against Jakub from Czech Republic, because of that mistake. I was conscious about it when I was doing it, but I was so tired at that point. You know, that was like the last day of playing, and I suppose I just got I lost my mind for a couple of minutes there, and I lost a lot of points in round 2 of that game. So that even though later in that game I really did some cool plays with the Sanguiner and really stepped up my game, that was already too late, and I couldn't crawl back in points.
Cool. So it worked out 6.5 wins, and your average battle points was very respectable with 73.75. I can't imagine playing 9 games and not having a couple of games where you're going to make mistakes, right? I was just recently at GT, and in the final of GT, it was like I won it by the skin of my teeth only because I made a mistake and my opponent was very gracious with me. Because I just forgot to bring in one of my units of jump intercessors, and we started turn 4, and I was just like, oh my god, I didn't put this unit down. Can I just put them somewhere in the backfield? I'm an idiot, and they were very gracious with me. So yeah, it's hard to keep the level of focus. Even if you're on the caffeine and well fed and well hydrated, it's still hard. So what's interesting then is this is your list, and I have a few questions. So what's cool, the thing that I love about your list, the first thing I looked at it is I love Double Vindicator Tank. If you could use Oath of Moment on their target, it's just you just lift a unit off the table, right? It's so good. What's your plays with the Vindicator tanks? Are you starting them both on the board, reserves, anything like that, or?
I pretty much always do the same. I always place one Vindicator on the table, just in case the opponent intends to rush me, and then the other one goes outside to come from strategic reserves. That way, I can most of the time get a good line for its first shot. And the other unit that goes outside the table is the 6-man, the Sanguinary Guard with the captain. And the one that goes attached to that captain really depends on the matchup. If I'm playing against an army with big units like Canis Rex, a Monolith, the Silent King, that kind of stuff, then the Rage Fueled Warrior captain goes in the 6-man. so I can get a really big punch when I need to. And if I'm playing, for example, Orcs, a Blood Angel's Mirror, a Gene Stealer God, then the guy with the fight first goes into the 6-man, and then if they don't have shooting, or maybe I've neutralized it, taken away from them, then that unit basically becomes uninteractable for them. So
Yeah, no, that's a really cool idea, actually. I hadn't considered that when I looked at the list. So does the second captain always go with one of the small Sanguinary Guard, or do you ever jump intercessors them?
yes, no, always with the Sanguinary Guard, because the buff you get of also -1 to wound is very noticeable into small units that may be able to harm you, but can't because of that defensive bonus.
Yeah, that's very cool. Okay, what about the Ball Predators? They're always on the board?
Yeah, they're always
Yeah.
on the board because they're so fast. It's if you put them on strategic reserves, also with their shorter range, it's less likely that they might be able to target something that you want. And it usually takes people by surprise how fast they can be. So you can most of the time get to maybe snipe, let's say, a unit of what's it called, the 3-man of the Tau that guides units and has marked
Right.
the
Yeah, stealth
XP
suits. Is it
unit.
stealth suits?
Yeah, stealth suits. It's very good at taking out those kind of data sheets.
Yeah, because I guess move 12 plus d6,
Yes,
And
and
then-
then you can reroll that d6.
and then it's 18 inches on the big flamer, isn't it? So
Yes. And also in GW tables, because this is what GW layout, or the US Open, and some people call it, it's very easy actually to move between the ruins, because there are a lot of ruins that are like considered to be 2 inches or less. So you just go right through them, but they do cover you. So it's very
Yeah.
different in WTC.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So normally, that I'll just give you my take. It's like normally, if I was throwing 2 Vindicator tanks into a Blood Angels list, I would sort of be on the side of like that might be enough armor, right? Like I might have gone more Death Company than what you did, or I might have gone like I've been running Outriders a little bit. We could talk about them being even better now, but like. Did you do a lot of practice with the double Vindicator, double Baal? Do you still like that even after the data slate changes?
Yeah, definitely. Like, in fact, I think with the drops in Sanguinary Guard and you offset the points up aside on Mephiston.
Yep.
And you have an extra 10 points in this list in particular, and you downgrade the Infiltrator squad to maybe an Incursor, Reaver, Intercessor, just your preference. And then with those 20 points, you offset the up points on the Rage Field Warrior, and you can play the same list or even upgrade him to Dante, which is also an option, to be fair.
Yeah, cool. So at the event, then, how valuable did you find your Infiltrators? Like, because I sometimes on my channel we joke that Infiltrators are like they're like the vegetables in your meal, right? You don't want to take them, but you have to eat them, right? That's what we kind of say. You still like them, or you feel like they are replaceable now with something else, maybe,
now I believe now you can play without them. Okay, now you can play with. I believed that before it was a crazy idea to play without them, because of course there are some matchups where they don't do anything. For example, last game I played against, let's say, a very honest Gladius Ultramarines list, which didn't have Deep Strike. So like there were basically 100 points that I would. I might as well just put a token on my home objective and say that were the infiltrators. But some games, they really give you an option to fight. For example, I played round 4 against a Hypercreep Dekran. If I didn't have that unit, I would have to put 400 points just to defend my home objective. So it would have been a very different game without them.
And you think that they're less needed because of the Deep Strike changes, or you just...
Yeah, I think probably if you screen well enough with any of scouts or intercessors or something like that, maybe you're good enough to defend your backfield. I don't know. I have to make measurements to make sure that you can screen your backfield. But I believe now they are an option. Before they were, for me, auto-include, but now they are an option that you decide to take.
Yeah, because I think I was playing heavy intercessors and intercessors. And the idea was that like the heavies could go and maybe stand on like a side field, and the intercessors could sticky. And then I played Grey Knights, and they just, like Nemesis Dread Knights dropping in with the 3 inches, flamers, psi cannons. It's like, oh my god, get off my home field objective. Please. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about Mephiston, because he went up 10 points.
Yep.
But what was interesting when I did the video about the WCW was like all the top lists, Mephiston. He was the one thing that I think everybody had. So a lot of people have struggled with him, because I think like if you just run him into the enemy, expect him to kill a lot of stuff, he's probably not going to do that. So would you mind sharing a couple of like what was the best things you did with Mephiston, or?
Yeah, of course. So Mephiston has the good value that, well, you have to be mindful with him, first of all. You cannot treat him as if he were another Sanguinary Guard unit. He's not going to kill a Scorpius tank by himself. He can, but it's very unlikely. And the Scorpius tank very rarely can kill Mephiston. So where Mephiston shines is, for example, continuing this AdMech metaphor, is in fighting Rastalkers, jump pack intercessors, scouts, let's say 5 gene stealers, all these kinds of units. He deals very well with them. They can really get very little hope to deal significant damage back to him. Obviously, his fight first, his load up, it's a very good combination of rules. We all know his data sheet. And I believe for me, he was like a great objective holder and also like a mission specialist, the other player usually had to divert their plan significantly if they wanted to deal with him, because in the same way, as I said, you cannot expect him to deal with a real unit. Anything that is not a real unit cannot expect to deal with him.
Yeah.
In that way, it kind of helps you dictate where the game is played. Yeah,
and I think even going up 10 points, I think he still will see a lot of play in Blood Angels lists. But I think what you said is very accurate as well. Like he skirts the edges of the battlefield, and he deals with the opponent's chaff units that they really want to keep alive. Cool. So 3 units of jump intercessors. I mean, Blood Angels players will be very familiar with what jump intercessors can do. The one interesting thing to say is you didn't have scouts.
A lot of people say that my list doesn't have quote unquote scoring units. But for me, the thing is, you need all the damage you can get. And when it comes down to do containment, 5 JPIs, a Pulp Predator, Mephiston, even a Vindicator is perfectly capable of doing containment if needed. And the turn that you get no prisoners and maybe behind or some other kill mission, or maybe another mission that you say, oh, this is very hard to do, I will acknowledgely ignore it, get a CP back, and then focus on killing so I can improve my state on the board. And then later turns, I can get back on points because my opponent is, tabled or cornered into his deployment zone. It's also a bit of a gamble because if the cards later don't go well for you, then you may not be able to rack up in points again. But pretty much everything in Warhammer is a gamble. So when you decide to take 400, 500 points only on scoring units, i.e. scouts, let's say ATVs, those kind of stuff that don't do anything besides scoring, you also run the risk of losing the board state.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what my take on it.
Yeah, I just reluctantly, it's funny, I dropped a unit of Outriders out of my list to bring back a unit of Scouts. Because for me, I always just find a way to get those Scouts to score points. And I was like, as much as I like Outriders, and ironically, I'm dropping them as their damage finally gets buffed. I was like, there's so many times where I feel like my jump units make spaces and then the scouts can utilize it. So I've played both with and without scouts. It's really nice to see you do well without them though, because a lot of people, when I didn't have scouts on my list, a lot of people are very opinionated about that. Like, you've got to have scouts, John, what are you doing? And it's like, it proves, and I think you've proved here really well, actually, that I don't think many people would have said Double Baal, Double Vindicator, Blood Angels would be the best in faction Blood Angels list. Like,
Yeah, no, I understand.
no, I love it. I love it though because I think in 9th edition there was a time where it was like you had to take 3 units of Sangre Guard, you had to take 3 units of Death Company, and three units of Salt Marines. And if you took anything else, you got told like, "What are you doing? You don't know how to play Blood Angels." And I was like, I think it's so much more vibrant when people can come up with something different and like, you know, do really, really well with it. So, I did want to ask you about your Oath of Moment priority a little bit, because one of the things that I really like doing is I like taking Dante, because I feel like he lets me, I don't need Oath of Moment on my Sangre Guard, I feel like, because of his +1 to hit. Whereas I feel like in this list, maybe you do, like that 6-man unit of Sangre Guard are jumping in, they're probably going to want Oath. Do you feel that you obviously know what Dante does, you just sort of put that to the side and say, I'd rather use my Oath in the Sangre Guard, or I don't need it elsewhere, or what was your sort of decision there?
Well, on the Dante situation, you know, because a lot of people ask me, you don't think Dante is good, you don't think it's worth it. That's not the case. I think Dante is a perfectly valuable option, as well as, for example, the 10th Company Brick. I don't play the 10th Company Brick, notably. A lot of people also ask me about this. And it's not that I think they are worse. It's just I think they are a different option. For example, Alejandro, the other player from Spain that also finished 19th, he actually did make the top cut 16. His list is also very good. It's just I think that this versatility that my list has was better suited for this kind of tournament, where you would have to play against a lot of different armies with very high skilled players on whatever board and mission, because we didn't know them beforehand. And so on your question, Dante and the Oath, well, yeah, the turn that the big brick of Sanguinary Guard comes from Deep Strike, it's obviously going to the target of the Sanguinary Guard because you need them to hit as hard as possible. And then on the other turns, mostly the Vindicators get preference, because they're the only thing that punch really hard to make a difference with Oath.
Yeah.
Perhaps there's a weird case where you absolutely need the Assault Intercessors to smash, I don't know, Mandrake, Scouts, whatever, and you get the Oath there. Sure, but it's the odd thing out.
No, that makes sense to me. Yeah. Like sometimes I'll use Oath of Moment on Outrider's target, which will be even more valid now. Like I can't wait to talk to you about Outriders. The Sanguinor is an interesting character in that we've seen a lot of people move away from him, just because I guess he is much more situational. So you went into this tournament knowing you're going to play lots of different armies. Mainly you kept the Sanguinor for his miraculous savior, or you know, like what was the strategy like? Why did you hold on to him? Just a few words if you can.
Sure. Well, first of all, the Sanguinor is very expensive. It is the truth. He could very reasonably drop 10 or 15 points. That's just how it is. Because he's not that durable and he doesn't hit that hard. Perhaps if his, miraculous ability counted as a charge, we would be talking something else. But it is what it is. I initially planted him because when we were on my team going around the idea of the list for a few team tournaments that we had for WCW, which were the first tournaments that accepted the new codex, we really based the start of the idea around the fact of having the triple fight first, the captain, Mephisto, and the Sanguinor, and also playing around that double load-up. We thought that they would pair very nicely into the gun lines that were at the moment dominating the meta, and also fighting very nice against orcs, space wolves. You remember Wolf Jail was very popular a couple of months ago. So we thought this was very good into it because, for example, a lot of the times when a big unit of Wolf Guard used to charge you, it's a very big footprint on the table, and you can easily drop down the Sanguinor on the other end of the squad and then messing up their piling.
Yeah.
So it was a reasonable choice to make, and played a lot of games with them. Of those team tournaments that we played before, I didn't lose a single game, and I was confident I could take on pretty much anything and still win. So I was like, okay, maybe this list is good enough to play against almost anything.
Yeah, I did think with with the Sanguiner having that bigger base now, I did think that could make him, as you say, like you drop him they're charging into unit on the left, you drop them on the right. Now they're piling. Half the models can't pile in towards a unit. You can mess up their number of attacks. I did think that was pretty cool, and obviously the bigger base means you could potentially base more models as well. So it's nice to see. I think the main thing to take away is it's just nice to see that there's lots of options for Blood Angels at the moment. Like you said, a lot of people take that Lamarta's 10-man Death Company brick. It's still good. A lot of people take Scouts, and then I think the other thing is a lot of people take the Impulsors with
Captain,
the captains, the assault intercessors, that sort of good stuff inside. So I think our codex has come out pretty nicely. And is there anything else you want to say on the list before we move forward? Anything else we've missed?
There's cool things that you can do with the Sanguiner. With his ability is very forgiving in its wording, because as you know, it doesn't force you to come out base to base to the unit that charged. And it also doesn't impede you to coming within engagement range of other units that didn't charge. So, for example, in the Shadow Round game against Forger, I did a really cool play. We had to get the referees involved because Forger was like, no, that's not possible. George Roberts was there asking me reviewing the rule. And the thing is, he charged me with a unit of Wardens to my Jump Pack Intercessors, and he had the Caladius next to them. And he was playing the Dutchman that gets the reactive move, the stratagem, Custodes. So it's very dangerous for me because I can't unwillingly move my Sanguinary Guard next to him because he can make the charge harder or even hide himself from shooting. And I really need to have both shooting and melee into the Warden squad to be able to kill it, so I can bait his feel of pain. So what I did in that case was I pulled the Sanguiner within 1 inch of the Wardens and 1 inch of the Caladius. And now, obviously, one Warden is very hard to kill the Sanguiner. And now, at the end of his turn, both the Caladius and the Wardens are within engagement range. So now I can freely move into him, and the Caladius nor the Wardens can move back.
Okay.
So that was really... And I ended up taking that flank entirely with that play. So there's a lot of cool plays you can do with the Sanguiner. And there's obviously games where he's not good. For example, Leon Knights. No, he's not good. He's not gonna heal an army here. It's not realistic, and he's probably going to die to a
chain.
party,
I was going to say he's probably going to die to the chain glaive of the night.
Basically, a load up on that game. It is what it is.
Also, well, maybe
his second ability is actually nicer than you think against that kind of forcing battle shock, because he rerolls battle shocks in aura, and also Tyranids. So it's something you can take into account to get more out of him.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, many people forget that he lets you reroll the. It's all leadership tests, isn't it, or all battle shock tests?
Leadership and battle shock tests, both.
Yeah, he does both. Cool. Okay. Right. Let's jump forward. So I put in some of the pictures you sent me. Thank you so much for this.
No problem.
And we have a game against Tau, and I guess I felt like when I looked at the pictures that you sent me, your army seemed like it was pretty spread out. So I guess
because this game was against Retaliation Cadre.
I was going to say it's going to come down to deep striking 6 inches. Well, they're not melta-guns, but they are the equivalent, aren't they?
On these photos, actually, it's very funny because you cannot see the infiltrators, which are the reason there's so much space on my board. Because they're just in a line within my route. You can see one there.
You can see one just here.
So I pre-measured everything so that no unit of Crisis Plus Commander could fit anywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, I think even though we talked a minute there ago about saying you feel like there might be some options for not having those infiltrators, I feel like I will continue to eat my meat, eat my vegetables, and have them.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a choice that you make. And the terrain on this is the sort of terrain that we've been playing now on my live stream, where it's those Perspex bases and the sort of half ruins on top of the Perspex bases. I like it, but I also find that on a lot of the terrain pieces now, the firing lanes are very cut down, much shorter firing lanes than maybe what we were playing 6 months ago. It feels like. So that probably in some ways benefits Vindicator tanks, right?
Yeah, because it's kind of easy to, get the Vindicators outside of our ruin and then maybe reach pretty much all that you can see. Not everything, of course. For example, on the image on the left corner here, we can see very long lines from one edge to another.
Yeah.
And not all tables are like that. For example, the table up from that, basically anytime you put a Vindicator outside, you can pretty much see what you see.
Yeah.
Reach what you see.
Do you ever play defensive strats on your tanks, or do you keep your CP for other things?
Well, for example, this game, these two games up here are very good examples of that, because on those two, I took the chance of tanking a Caladius with my tanks, because I also pre-measured everything so that I made sure that only one Caladius could shoot at my tanks at any time. And I was like, okay, if I pop smoke and I AOC, he hits 3-on-3s, which is very hard for him because he doesn't get reloads to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then with cover and AOC, the Vindicator is hitting on 3s, his big shots, and the Predator on 4s. So I knew that it was also obviously a lottery because, I don't know, he can say, here's 2 saves, and you roll double 1. It
Yeah,
is what
of
it
course
is.
you can.
And you take kind of an informed gamble, let's say, and I did it both times. Both times it paid off. I was able to tank the Caladius one time, which is enough so that now I am in the open, I have a better position, and now your Caladius is exposed.
Yeah, and not many things stand up to those strength 14. And I guess
one thing Caladius stand up very good to that Vindicator in response.
And you do get those the one-shot hunter killer missiles on the Ball Predators as well. So it just adds a little bit more strength 14. I know it's once per game, but cool. So I thought maybe what we could talk about as well at the end of this is just some of the changes that are coming, and see if you're excited about any changes, or see if you wanted to highlight any changes. So very quickly, I suppose, how do you feel about Angelic? Because you said you main as Blood Angels, correct? Yeah. So do you I want to be competitive. I'm finding it very hard to feel like I can do that with Lost Brethren and Angelic Host. How do you feel about those?
I mean, maybe Angelic Host has some, redeeming qualities, but I think Lost Brethren really calls for maybe not a redo, because we won't get that, but maybe the treatment that Inner Circle Detachment got, a few reworks or something, because really, we all know about this, but getting your detachment rule when you're just at 1 or 2 guys left is really underwhelming.
Yeah.
And Angelic Host, the points drop on the Inceptors is nice, because it's pretty much one of the best data sheets you can take in that detachment.
Yep.
And the drop points on Samurai Guard as well.
Yeah.
But also, on the other hand, you've lost pretty good assets on the drop down on 3, Stratagem and the Inceptors. So I say 1 and 1, maybe, or even.
Yeah.
At best, you can maybe hope to get a B tier list out of Angelic Host. I don't think you can really reach higher than that, sadly.
And is there anything, I think at this point, I think our detachment is going to be Christmas Day, right? Is there anything you're hoping for?
Actually, yeah, I would like to have an attachment focus on all 3 things at once. The Death Company, the Samurai Guard, and let's call it the Red Wing. The regular. It would be nice to have something like a mixed arms detachment or something like that.
Do you know that would be very reminiscent of 9th edition, where it was possible to run all not jump intercessors, all jump marines.
The flying castle. With the banner with +2 movement. I love that.
I remember when the banner used to be, was it not like a 5-up Feel No Pain in the aura?
That was in 8th edition, I believe.
Yeah, I loved that. That. I even had my aggressors advancing with my jump troops to stay in that banner, because I just thought it was so great. So yeah, I guess we touched on the Blood Angels changes. It was the Samurai Guard went down, Rage Fueled and Mephiston both went up. Does that change anything massively for you?
Not really.
No?
I believe Rage Fueled Warrior was punished a bit too heavily, because it can spike very hard. but it can also not do anything at all. And at least for me, most of the times it did most nothing than really good rolling.
Yeah.
Because even with Oath, for example, I did play with hammers, that's true. But you only hit on 3s, not 2s. So you really only want to reroll fails. But still, I don't think it was that good. Honestly,
Well,
I don't know.
I was playing the day this came out, and Rage Fueled went up, and I was like, I need to, like, I'm playing after work. I've got no time to write a new list and pack up. So I just flipped Rage Fueled into Gift of Foresight to save the 10 points. And I played Gift of Foresight for the first time ever, and I used basically the same captain you had, the captain with a Thunderhammer. And what I actually realized after that game, I was like, oh, so every single time he fights, I think he gets 6 attacks. So you hit like 4 or 5 times. And then out of those 4 or 5 hits, you usually roll 1-6 and you usually miss one. So you just always.
And you can almost say, I will always do 4 mortal wounds. You can say that.
So I was like, oh, I'll always flip the 1 miss I get with a Thunderhammer, or sorry, the 1 fail to wound into a 6. So basically always going to do 4 mortals. And I was playing against Death Guard, and I was like, do you know what? Doing 4 mortals every time he fights for 15 points, to me, actually, I was like, I think I prefer that to Rage Fuel.
It's not half bad. Yeah, it's not half bad.
Just because it felt more reliable, maybe, you know?
That's the thing.
In the amount of times that my characters die on like that final save, I was like, all right, so one time my character dies, I'll just flip it to a 6 and be like, haha, I still live. Because I always, you know, like they make you take 20 saves, and it's always that last save that you fail and your guy dies from. Yeah. So I'll be like, no, I do not die. And you can't, if you ever re-roll that one, you always re-roll it into a fail. So, cool. What about so marine changes then? I mean, there's a few notable changes, right? Like, I think the most notable changes was everybody that had a knife now has 1 AP. Outriders lost their 6-inch advance, but gain +1 strength and +1 damage on the charge. So for anyone that's not familiar, that is now 15 attacks from 3 guys with strength 7, AP 1, 2 damage. And then like Inceptors, Reavers, Scouts probably are the meaningful changes for Blood Angels.
If you're taking Scouts, I think you're just absorbing the 5 points upgrade because the extra AP is very much worth it, those 5 points. So.
Yeah, I feel so. I think Outriders at 80 points are pretty good now.
They are.
Just because if you compare them flat up against the Assault Intercessors, it's more OC, it's more wounds, it's more toughness, and similar damage. I mean, they don't have the mortal wounds on the charge, but I find what you said earlier, right? With those mortal wounds on the charge for the Assault Intercessors, you either do 5 mortal wounds or you do none. It's like there's very... It never averages. It just never averages. Is there anything in this list of Space Marine changes that have you excited or going to try? Or
actually, for Outriders, the thing that has to be most excited about is if in the near future we finally get a captain on bike, because that feast was gonna be wow. Every minus 2/3, I like that.
Because it would be potentially be strength 11 fist, similar to the jump captain, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I think the +15 on the heavy intercessors is like, why? We were so close to finally having good heavy intercessors. I think it was a mistake, but I don't think, for example, the others. Inferior Squad, again, it's more of the same. Reavers, you can take Reavers if you plan to make a play around Dante. It's not very, how do you say it? It's not a very hard plan because it can fail easily because Reavers only move 6, so it's very easy that they don't make it. And even if they do, they're very squishy. They're only intercessors. So if you have them just laying around, it's also very easy that you lose them before actually getting to use them. But if you manage to pull it out, then it's obviously a very good combo. I mean, if you make like 2 battle shock checks with -2 in aura, and then also you drop down the OC, which also, unlike other abilities, doesn't make you minimum 1, so you can drop to OC 0, which is fine. But I think it's a plan. It's a plan.
Yeah. Some people are excited about like the Phobos. Is it the Phobos lieutenant that can attach the Reavers? They'll drop down, they'll shoot, they'll move, they'll charge, and they've
Because
got
his ability doesn't make you not be able to charge.
correct. Yeah. So
Oh,
I
that's
think
great.
it's 215 points. That would give you 10 Reavers plus the Phobos lieutenant. You move, you drop down, you would shoot like basically 11 bolt pistols with AP1 precision.
Yep.
You would then move D6. You could then charge, and when you make the charge, you get like 50 attacks from the Reavers now with the knives at AP1. It'd be strength 6. So, I mean, if you include like the 11 pistol shots, you're basically getting 60 AP1 at precision. So, like, some people are very excited about this, but I kind of think what you said hits the nail on the head. They are still just intercessors. Essentially, like toughness 4, 3-up save. If you're playing Death Guard, then you'll just flame them off the table before they make any charge, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that's my concern with it. I mean, I think it in some matchups, don't get me wrong, I think 50 AP1 precision attacks will be crazy, but I
I
end
think
up.
the death run is like a crazy idea, but you can play the 5-man and the lieutenant. And if you have a pairing where that combo is not relevant or not interesting, then you can play them separate and you have 2 scoring units.
That's very true, yeah.
Last bit, right?
Yeah, you could just use them like scouts because the lieutenant's like 65 points, so I suppose it is almost the same as just 2 units of scouts. 5 points more expensive. They maybe bring a little bit more damage than scouts do, but okay. Cool. Oh yeah, and I put down the heavy intercessors change. They got an extra point of damage. I mean, I don't think it's bad, but yeah, I think at 110 points, like you're having to cut something pretty significant for heavy intercessors.
Yeah, at that point, you're taking out basically a real unit, which is not what you want to do for intercessors.
Yeah. Do you know what? I should have made a slide to ask you about 5-man Death Company. Because I've pretty much just given up on 5-man Death Company now, and I know in your list you had the 2 small units of Sangre Guard, which have gone down in points, so they're exact same points cost now. I feel like 5-man Death Company are, in my experience, having just like 1 Power Fist and 1 Eviscerator, or I think it might actually be, sorry, it might be 2 Power Fists and 1 Eviscerators. But I just feel like for no C, you have to have the chaplains kicking around. I just don't think it's good enough anymore.
It has to drop significantly in points, the 5-man, to be able to be used as a trading piece. Because also there's a lot of things that you can't trade it for. For example, you can't score Storm Hostile. If you fail by just 1 model short of 1 wound, then you're also not denying primary. Sanguinary Guard do that a lot better because even if they don't kill a vehicle with their OC6, they're pretty much outscoring any vehicle.
Yeah, I never even considered that. It's a really good point, actually, because even Dreadnoughts are OC5, aren't they? So, cool. And I suppose most Dreadnoughts would actually struggle to kill Sangre Guard in that -1 to hit, -1 to wound potentially as well. And I suppose if
there are a few attacks. So.
Yeah, and if you've got the character attached, then they're OC8, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, exactly. For example, that's very good for playing the Armiger matchup because with the captain, you can, for example, take an objective from 2 Armigers. You kill the first one, then touch the other. Obviously, if it's a shooting Armiger, you always fight first to the carnivore, and then you take the objective away from him because you're OC8 in total.
Brilliant. Is there anything else you would like to talk about while you're here? Shout-outs on the channel? Anything at all?
I think we covered a lot.
If
we went game by game, we would be here like another extra hour, so it's fine. We'll leave it here. Very excited to be here. Very thankful for you for having me. So, yeah.
No, it was really nice to meet you. If you ever come to Scotland, we'll get a best in faction matchup, and you can... I don't know if they'll host it.
The UKTC tournament.
I have got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, so I haven't been to very many tournaments in the last couple of years. But maybe like in a couple more years, I'll get back into the swing of things. I was going to more tournaments before I had kids, basically. So it is what it is. But I do have a GT in January. So hopefully I'm going to try and... I won the last GT I played, so I'm trying to make it in 2 in a row. But
great. Do you run much into Wiz? chance.
Do you run much into what? Sorry.
Into Ines Wilson. He's also from Scotland, right? Or
yeah, he is Team Scotland's captain. I have played him once, and I'm proud to say I'm 100% against him. No, I am.
no, just out of curiosity,
You know what I say? I played him in a team tournament in 9th edition. Actually, he's very, very good player. But I was running, same as you, right? I was running like, I wouldn't say your list is unorthodox, but I think most people probably don't have practice against double Ball Predator, double Vindicator tank.
Yeah. Before this, I used to play also. This was even more unorthodox. The rest of the edition, I was playing the Triple Death Company Dreadnought.
Okay, all right.
6-man Eradicator squad teleporting with the Librarian Dreadnought, that stuff. Also Triple Ball Predator. So it was a very weird list for people to face. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's merit in that, because when people don't know how to play against you, sometimes you can just surprise them. And yeah, I played against Innes, and I was running like a triple. This was back. Do you remember when you had those silly Contemptor dreadnoughts with the mortal wound cannons? I was running like double Volkite and a Redemptor dreadnought for Blood Angels, and I think he just had no idea what my list was going to do, basically. So yeah, but no, I've played Innes. I'm sure that next time I play him, he'll beat me, because he literally wins all the. Well, he doesn't win all the events, but he wins a lot of the events here in the UK. So, cool. All right, thanks again for coming on. It was really absolute pleasure to have you. If you have a question for Borja, leave it in the comments below, and if I can't answer it or whatever, I will send it his way, and maybe even you can jump into the comments if you've got a hot minute at some point. That would be great.
Esto ha sido todo, espero que no se os haya hecho demasiado largo. Volveremos la semana que viene, ya probablemente el martes o el miércoles, cuando hayan terminado ya los últimos lanzamientos, las últimas novedades de Grotmas, para hacer el tercer vídeo recap de todos estos cambios en nuevos destacamentos. Ya veremos qué nos termina deparando. Se supone que ya quedan pocos codes, quedan unos 6 codes por ahí, en principio se sabe todo lo que son. Pero bueno, no sabemos si habrá alguna sorpresa extra al final de Grotmas. Así que bueno, como siempre, espero que os haya gustado, que os haya resultado ameno y bueno, que os haya servido para quizás comprender algo que no comprendíais o con un nuevo punto de vista, como siempre. Así que nos vemos la semana que viene aquí de vuelta en el canal.